Good afternoon, everybody. Vince Lee here on Sunday, November 30th. It's my last day in Philadelphia, and today is a momentous day in the birthday quest because this is the halfway point. 183 days of the birthday quest so far with 182 to go. Absolutely amazing. Coincidentally, this is the third day where I have no friends with listed birthdays on Facebook. So this provides me the perfect opportunity right here at the halfway point of my year-long birthday quest to pay tribute to one of my most important mentors, the late, great Erich Kunzel. I could easily do an 8-hour multi-part documentary series on Erich and it still wouldn't pay proper justice to the man. Without a doubt, I would not be anywhere close to where I am today without his guidance and mentorship. I first met Erich as a kid during my stage performing days, and when I met him I was already a grizzled performer of sorts. I had been performing opera and theater for 4 years. Looking back, a big part of why the two of us got along from the get-go is because we had some important similarities. Both of us enjoyed doing crazy or silly antics behind the scenes, pulling off the perfect prank, telling the right joke in rehearsal, and of course, being really focused on the audience having a fantastic time. However, even when I was a kid, I was a hardcore workaholic, and when it came to the quality of my work product, I was super serious. Erich ended up taking me under his wing as a conductor, and what's interesting is I never once shared with him that I had had these secret dreams about wanting to be a conductor. The reason was actually quite straightforward and practical. At the time I had been playing piano for 7 years and I had been performing professionally as a stage performer for several years. But here's the thing, you see plenty of kids who are actors, singers, musicians, you see kids scientists, you see kids that are in college, but you never see kid conductors. So even though at age 12 I was already frequently doing rehearsals at my performing arts school, and at age 13 I prepared my first opera chorus, in my head that was very different from the world of conducting, and it just didn't seem practical or even possible. I ended up getting to conduct the Pops 7 times as a kid, and the story leading up to that debut is an amazing one, but it'll have to wait for a long blog post or for that proverbial book I'm going to write in a few decades. I will, however, tell the story of my very first rehearsal with the Pops, and about the one moment, a simple error in the music, that changed what was probably going to be a one-time gimmick into something far more important for me. The theme for this particular series of concerts was a country down on the farm theme. So everybody was decked out in cowboy regalia. I had a cowboy hat, boots, and a bandana tied around my neck. The piece I was conducting was a Carmen Dragon arrangement of the Orange Blossom Special, which features solo fiddle. The piece was in 2 and with a very simple form. Introduction, A section which repeats, B section repeats, C repeats, D repeat, Dies al coda to the end. I head up to the podium for the rehearsal, and Erich had only given me one simple instruction for that rehearsal. Don't stop. So I start the piece, we play the introduction, and the concertmaster of the Cincinnati Symphony at the time begins his fiddle solo at rehearsal A. The music's bopping along just fine, and 16 measures later we get to the first repeat. The orchestra takes the repeat, but the concertmaster continues on to rehearsal B. Erich said not to stop though, so as I continue to do this, I look for Erich and he's nowhere to be found. He's not even paying attention. He's off to the side of the stage talking with the orchestra manager. So in a very early test of the independence of my conducting arms, I continue to conduct with this hand while frantically waving for him for the other. Erich quickly hears that the piece is sounding like Ives, so he claps to stop the rehearsal, comes up to me, and in very Erich Kunzel fashion says, "What did you do to my orchestra?" The problem was that the concertmaster was right there. I was 13 at the time, I had grown up watching him play, and I didn't want to say the mistake he made in front of everybody. So I tried to whisper to Erich what the problem was. We played rehearsal A, and he skipped the repeat and went to rehearsal B. So Erich reaches forward to grab the score and check the music. But the score wasn't on the stand, the score was on the ground because I had the piece memorized, or at least at the age of 13, what I considered to be memorizing a score at the time. So he gives me a look as he's holding the score and he asks me, "What measure was that again?" And I said, "Rehearsal B, measure 27. So he flips to the score, finds rehearsal B, measure 27, sees the repeat, checks the concertmaster's part, and the concertmaster was missing all of the repeats from the piece. They write in all the repeats into the concertmaster's part, and then Erich comes back around and says, "You know what? Start the piece again." Except this time, he stands there the whole time watching. And look, of course I had very limited physical vocabulary at the time because that's something that only comes with time and practice. But that moment, those missing repeats in one single part, led to a much more important mentorship for me. A fascinating note on Erich's conducting mentorship of me. He never once gave me a single conducting lesson. I didn't discover this until I started college, but the reason why is because it's the same philosophy that Pierre Monteux had when Monteux was mentoring Erich Kunzel. There's so much to say about Erich as a conductor, but a lot of people don't realize that his entire life and career path was symphonic classical music until the pops thing just happened. He had some of the best years in the business and had a huge influence on my infamous freaky years, and he was also one of the best rehearsal technicians you've ever seen. And this really stood out because so many conductors in the genre have terrible ears, terrible rehearsal technique, no idea how to work with an orchestra in general, no idea how to tell if an arrangement is bad or good, and it seems like their only goal is to see how fast they can hack through a rehearsal. People often talk of the millions of fun and memorable Erich stories, and a lot of people on the business side of the music world make the mistake of thinking that those stories were why his audience would always come back. There's so much I have to say on this topic, and there are a lot of parallels and connections to the troubles in the classical music world as well. I'm planning on writing a big article on this, but in short, quality matters. It doesn't matter how much shtick you have, it doesn't matter how much you talk through your nose and act like a goofball. If the product doesn't sound good, the audience is not coming back. Erich not only understood the importance of quality, but he knew and understood his audience better than anyone, and he respected his audience enough to know that they could tell the difference. Erich had an enormous impact on so many lives all around the world. He had an impact on young artists like me, who he gave opportunities to, which we were able to use as a springboard. And he had an impact on millions of audience people who enjoyed his concerts and oftentimes were experiencing orchestral music for the first time. There is still so much more to be said about the man, and much of it will have to wait for that proverbial book I'm going to write. For now, I'll leave with a huge thank you. Thank you so much for his mentorship, guidance, leadership, and example. The theme I'm doing today in Erich's honor borrows a quote from each of the 7 pieces I got to conduct as a kid. Thank you again, Erich, so much for everything. I miss you, my friend.